All right, welcome back to our channel. We are going over 7.3, which is called Can You Get There From Here? And so this jumpstart you guys are going to do on your own in class. But I wanted to talk about this part here. It says learning focus. Show two figures are congruent. That's the big part. We're showing things that are congruent based on efficient and consistent sequence of rigid transformations. And how do I know if two images, such as the frog and lizard images from the previous tasks, are congruent? And is there a best sequence of transformations for showing that two figures are congruent to each other? And what features of the figures themselves support this work? And is there a sequence of transformation that would be easy to replicate every single time? So, yes, there are many different answers. Yes, you can get the same answer using a different, sequence. But can we find the best? And that's one of the things that math helps you do. Math helps you efficiently, consistently find ways to find your answer. Now, when you are working on this, you're going to reflect and say, is there a better way to do this? And that's how you're going to get better at this. And this is no different than anything else that you would work on, period. So it says two quadrilaterals are shown. You'll see them below. Quadrilateral ABCD and QRST and they're congruent with corresponding congruent parts marked in the diagrams. Now you're going to hear this phrase, corresponding congruent parts, over and over again, marked in the diagrams. And so we'll talk about that first. So when you're looking at these symbols here, if you can kind of look, there's one tick mark here, which matches with one tick mark here. That means those two sides are congruent. Just a reminder, this has two tick marks, this has two tick marks. So basically they're saying CB is congruent to RS. And then these three are congruent to these three. And then lastly, these four are congruent to those four. So those corresponding sides are congruent. Okay, and I'm highlighting them in different colors just so you can see it. Same thing goes here if you go with this angle here with one arc mark, with this angle here with one arc mark. And then just go traveling around, 2 matches with 2, 3 matches with the 3, and 4 not 4, but circle with a tick mark matches with circle with a tick mark. So those are the corresponding congruent parts that they're talking about. Okay, so that's number 1. It says, describe a sequence of rigid transformations that will carry a quadrilateral ABCD onto quadrilateral QRST, and be very specific in describing the sequence and types of transformations that you will use so that someone else could perform the same series of transformations. So whenever you're giving certain directions, think about like the recipe that you maybe use to make your favorite dish, or maybe your mom uses. If she was to tell you to make it, if she's not going to be specific enough, then the outcome will not be the same. So same thing goes here, right? If she says now add salt, and you're like, well, how much salt do I add? That's exactly what they're talking about here. All right, excuse me. So it says once you have written a description, we're not going to do this. I mean, you're actually going to write your description, and then tomorrow in class, you're going to show each other the description to see what you guys got. And so here are some questions that are going to help you. Look carefully at the words and diagrams. Do they make sense? Did we make a mistake? Do we see a mistake? Did we leave something out that needs to be put in? Excuse me. And do we know something more that needs to be added? Okay. Why do we know? Why do we want to make changes that we are proposing? So usually when something is, when you think something is done, it means no more stuff. It means no more stuff could be added. No more stuff could be taken away. Everything that you see there is kind of like ready to be presented. Okay. So you're looking at this, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to get it such that you will get ABCD onto QRST. Now, there's a lot of different ways for you to do this, but your job is to kind of get, your job is to try to come up with the most efficient way. That way, you're not doing extra steps or you're not missing any steps. So, things that I want you to think about as you're writing your sequence of steps is this, like, what, where do, like, I usually just pick a point, like, take A, for example. Where does A have to go on to? And because of the way they listed it up here, that quadrilateral ABCD goes on to QRST, they're giving you that order for a reason. So that means A has to map onto Q, B has to go onto R, kind of thing. So when you're looking at this, you're figuring out, okay, well, how do I get this guy, right? I want A to match with A, and then I want B to match with R, right? So you'll come up with some strategy of rotations or reflections, translations, whatever those things go, and then see if you can come up with a one that you are pleased with. Okay. So tomorrow we're actually going to go over the rest, like actually going over some of your ideas and figuring out who's it, like if there's anything that needs to be added or subtracted. So remember that when you're writing out your sequence of steps here, it needs to be such that you can hand it to someone else and they would be able to follow your recipe and come up with the same outcome you did. Okay. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.